Okay, my environmental detective. So yesterday you should have figured out that James Pond was in an algal bloom. And so how are we to know that? Do you remember how the invertebrate animals like the leeches, the black fly larvae, the aquatic worms, all of those creatures living in James Pond, they did not need high oxygen environments. We didn't find a single invertebrate animal in that net that indicated that they needed oxygen. So we can be assured that James Pond is too low in oxygen. We also see ducks arriving within the last 5 years and high numbers in kingfishers leaving. That tells us there's no fish for the kingfishers and lots of algae for the ducks. So we feel convinced it's an algal bloom. Now, when I say that we're testing for phosphate, phosphate is not a poison. That is scientifically accurate. Phosphates have phosphorus in them, and nitrates are another group of nutrients that have nitrogen in them. Phosphates and nitrates are not poisonous. Here's what they are. They're nutrients, but in out of control amounts, they can lead to an algal bloom like you learned yesterday. So I have something to show you. This chemical is a phosphate indicator. And so we've used indicator chemicals before, like on the pH paper last week, that will change color if there is a certain, say, pH. Well, in this case, this will change color from blue to yellow if there's phosphate in the water. And it just so happens that our student detective, Juan Tuño, has visited. And what he's done, he's filtered out the sediment, but he's brought us 3 different samples of runoff. This comes from the cattle ranch, this one from the golf course, and this from Gray's Land Town. Now let's review. The cattle ranch, we worry about manure, right? Manure would have undigested plant material that would have those nutrients in it. From the golf course, we know that they're putting fertilizer on golf courses, so that would be the source of phosphate. And then some laundry detergents have phosphate in them, and so we wonder if that's the problem. Now remember, Don Montuno, he owns the cattle ranch, and bovine suspect 7 works for him. So when I drop this phosphate indicator in, if it stays this bright blue color, it means no phosphate, and you'll indicate that by highlighting OK on your dock. If it changes color, that tells us there's too much phosphate. Okay, here we go. I think you can clearly see there has not been a color change. So the cattle ranch is okay. Now, oh, and again, that would be Don Juan Tuño and bovine. Now let's go to the golf course. Okay, so the golf course, we wonder about Sandy Trapp, and if her golf course fertilizer is to blame for the high phosphate amount causing the algal bloom. Uh-oh. Do you notice as I drop more and more of this phosphate indicator, can you see how it's turning to yellow? Okay, so you need to select and highlight too high in phosphates. Now here's the thing though. This does not mean that I can just stop testing, right? We can't just say, oh, we found the phosphates, they're coming from the golf course. Instead, we need to keep testing because it's totally possible that also laundry and the detergent in the wastewater could have too much phosphate. So here we go. Okay, you see staying blue. So that one is okay. It looks like we found the source of phosphate in James Pond, the golf course.